Friends, before we begin tonight's story, imagine waking in the dead of night, not fully awake, not fully asleep, your body heavy, your throat tight, and the room around you dim and unfamiliar in that peculiar way rooms become at 3 a.m. And there, upon your chest, not a man, not an animal, not even something large enough to fight, just a doll, a labubu, soft golden fur, blue glass eyes, little pointed ears, a grin stitched so neatly, so sweetly, that after a moment it ceases to look playful at all. It looks patient, as though it has been sitting in the dark for quite some time, learning your breathing, memorizing your grief, waiting for the precise moment your loneliness outweighs your sense. Now imagine this. You tear it apart yourself. You burn it. You grind what remains into ash. You throw those ashes into black running water. And the following morning, that same doll is found beside your body, clean, whole, smiling. Tonight's story is about sorrow, about the private sort of ruin people carry in cities where no one knows their name, about the things that do not enter through doors, but through absence. And if what happened to Melanie Lin in East London is true, then somewhere, even now, that Shanghai Labubu is still looking for a home. This is the story of Mel. London does not sleep properly. It dozes with one eye open. Buses hiss through wet streets, sirens drift in the distance, and behind 1,000 lit windows, people live side by side without ever truly touching one another's lives. Melanie Lin had lived in East London for nearly 3 years, long enough to stop looking up at the cranes, long enough to know that a city can crowd you from every side and still leave you absolutely alone. She'd come from a village outside Shanghai, a place of muddy yards, cooking smoke, and roads that became rivers after heavy rain. Her childhood had not been easy, but it had been legible. Her father worked until work hollowed him out. Her mother mended things no one else thought worth saving. Her younger sister Lily laughed too loudly and asked too many questions. And Mel was always the quiet one, the one who noticed sadness before anyone spoke it, the one who brought home broken toys because she could not bear to throw away anything that had once been loved. Then her father died, abruptly. A fever, a collapse, a funeral, and then a silence that altered everything. Her mother shrank inward. Lily became frightened. Mel became useful. She left for London thinking it would only be temporary, just long enough to earn, just long enough to help. But life is built from only for now decisions, and before she realized it, London had become the place where she worked, slept, sent money home, and quietly disappeared into routine. Her life there was small, a modest flat, a toy and collectibles shop, family messages on her phone, and Baxter, her aging rescue dog with solemn amber-brown eyes. Baxter was more than a pet. He was continuity, the only living thing in the city that knew who she had been before grief hardened into habit. Mel also collected dolls and figurines, not because she was childish, not because she was strange, because stillness comforted her. Objects did not betray, they did not abandon, they did not die. Over time, her flat filled with faces and glass eyes and carefully arranged figures staring out into the room. Her co-workers found it quirky, her sister thought it charming. But on rainy nights, with headlights sliding across the walls, even Mel sometimes felt the flat was less like a home and more like somewhere waiting. The day the Labubu arrived began with cold rain. Mel got to the shop early, and Rick, her manager, was already excited. A shipment had come from Shanghai. Limited edition designer collectibles, rare pieces collectors were already asking about. When the cartons were opened, even Rick went quiet. Every figure was wrapped with absurd care, each one exquisitely made. Most were unusual. One was unforgettable. It was a Labubu, but unlike the playful ones collectors usually chased, this one wore muted cream and old gold. Its fur looked like tarnished silk. Its little pointed ears curved slightly back. Its teeth were neat and pale. Its blue eyes were too vivid to belong to anything meant for a child's shelf. And its grin was the worst thing about it. Not wide, not wild, just controlled. Mel reached for it almost without thinking. The moment her fingers touched it, a sensation passed up her arm. Not pain, not cold, something older. As if the object had stored the emotional residue of every hand that had held it before. The feeling vanished quickly, but the unease lingered. By noon, the shipment had mostly sold out. Collectors argued, phones rang, and one man even offered double for the display piece. But before the rush began, Mel had quietly set the golden Labubu aside for herself. She could not explain why, only that the thought of someone else taking it home filled her with a sharp, unreasonable discomfort. When she brought it home that evening, Baxter met her at the door as usual, until she took the doll out of the box. Then he changed instantly. His tail stopped, his ears lifted, a low growl rose from deep in his chest. Mel laughed tiredly and placed the Labubu on the table, but Baxter barked again and again, not with excitement, but with warning. He showed his teeth. The fur along his back rose. He backed away as if expecting it to move. Mel put the doll on a shelf and told Baxter to settle. He did not. That night, when the lights were turned out, he refused to enter the bedroom. He stayed in the hall, staring into the sitting room at the dark little shape of the golden Labubu. Before sleep took her, Mel glanced toward the shelf and thought, only for a moment, that the doll's head was angled differently than before. Morning came wrong. The flat felt stale, compressed, as though the air had been sealed shut. Mel woke with a splitting headache. Baxter was still facing the shelf, rigid and alert. The moment he saw her, he barked and ran toward her, then back toward the figure, then back again, desperate to make her understand. But she was late, exhausted and irritable. When she reached for her bag, Baxter caught the hem of her jeans in his teeth and pulled. Not playfully, desperately. Mel snapped. She dragged him into the bathroom, shut the door, and left him there while he whined behind it. At the shop, nothing outwardly supernatural happened. A customer complained, Rick intervened, and suddenly, something in Mel broke. Her replies became sharper, harsher, crueler, until she was shouting at both the customer and Rick. The entire shop went silent. 5 minutes later, she no longer had a job. On her way home, shaken and drenched, she thought she saw the golden Labubu standing behind her in the reflection of a shuttered window. When she turned, there was only rain. Back in the flat, Baxter burst out of the bathroom and pressed himself against her as she cried. Then Mel looked up and saw the Labubu was no longer on the top shelf. It sat 2 levels lower, turned slightly toward the hall. She was certain she had not moved it. When she picked it up, it felt warm, not room warm, held warm, as though someone had only just set it down. That night, she shut Baxter in the bedroom with her. Sometime after midnight, she woke to a sound, a soft laugh, thin, childlike, but wrong. Baxter was already awake, rigid beside the bed. In the corner near the wardrobe stood a tall black shape, motionless and watching. When headlights flashed through the curtains, it vanished. Only the golden Labubu remained, now sitting on the floor. Mel turned the doll toward the wall and lay back down, but sleep brought no comfort. She dreamed of her flat rotting from the inside, walls sweating dark red, every doll and figurine turned toward her. Something crawled into the room, its limbs bent wrong, its wet skin hanging in ribbons, its eyes the same vivid blue as the Labubu's. It climbed onto her chest, pressed little clawed hands to her throat, and whispered, "You brought me home." She woke, choking. The golden Labubu was sitting on her chest. Mel screamed. Baxter launched himself across the bed, hit the doll hard enough to send it flying, and tore into it with violent desperation. Fabric ripped, stuffing burst, something cracked inside. At last, it lay in pieces. Mel gathered the remains with shaking hands, threw them in the kitchen bin, locked the bedroom door, and held Baxter until morning. Morning brought no relief. Mel felt feverish and weak. When she rolled up her sleeve, she found neat little red marks on her skin, too round to be scratches, too deliberate to be accidental. There were more along her neck and collarbone. Bites. Then she realized Baxter was gone. She searched the flat. Nothing. In the mirror, behind her, a small golden shape moved through the hall. She turned and found the Labubu whole again, restored, untouched. One moment it was on the shelf. The next, it was in the kitchen beside the sink, its tiny hands dark with blood. Then something wet slid slowly from the cabinet beneath the sink. Inside was Baxter, torn, broken, left behind as though something had fed and lost interest. The sound Mel made was grief made audible. Baxter had been her friend, her warning, her last protection. In that moment, she understood this was no mere cursed object. It was a mouth, a doorway, a vessel, and she had carried it into her home with both hands. In shock, she opened her laptop and searched obsessively. Golden Labubu curse. Blue-eyed figure returns after burning. Dog reacts to haunted collectible. Shanghai toy death. At first she found nonsense, forums, jokes, hoaxes, fragments. But buried beneath it all was a pattern. Stories from Manila, Prague, Sao Paulo, Kyoto. Different places, same details. Golden fur, blue or glassy eyes. The grin. Animals terrified. Nightmares, mood changes, weakness, bite marks, loss, death. Again and again, one phrase appeared. The hunger vessel. Not possessed, some wrote. Worn, like a face pulled over something ancient. And one badly translated post contained the lines she could not stop staring at. It does not choose homes. It chooses wounds. That sentence pulled something loose in her memory. She remembered her father once bringing home a bundle wrapped in red cloth from the river. She remembered her parents whispering late into the night about it. By morning, it was gone. She had never known what it was. Now, suddenly, the memory felt like a warning delivered too late. and there was only one person she thought might understand. Madame Liao kept a cramped repair shop in a lane off Chinatown. She restored porcelain, lacquer, temple fragments, devotional pieces, old things with history still clinging to them. Mel had met her once before through work, and she had seemed like the sort of woman who knew where damaged objects ended and dangerous ones began. When Mel entered carrying the labubu in a cloth bag, Madame Liao's expression changed before the bag was even opened. "What have you brought me?" she asked. When Mel unfolded the cloth, the old woman took a step back. "This is a vessel," she said after a long silence, "not the source. It enters by fascination, by pity, by beauty. Once welcomed, it anchors." Mel asked if it could be destroyed. Madame Liao did not answer immediately. Then she handed her a narrow paper charm covered in faded characters and gave precise instructions. "Burn the vessel completely, seal every scrap of ash, and carry it to moving water before midnight. Do not speak to it as though it can hear. Do not sleep near mirrors." Then she added the most important warning of all. "Do not let it pass through blood. Do not show it to family. Do not name it to them. Do not let a blood relative see its image clearly. Some things continue through recognition." As if summoned by those words, Mel's phone buzzed. A message from Lily. "Miss you. Send me a photo of your creepy doll apartment." Mel locked the screen. Madame Liao noticed. "Do not show it to anyone," she repeated. That night, in the alley behind her building, Mel prepared the burning. Rainwater gleamed on the brick, and the city sounded far away. She placed the labubu in a tray and struck a match. For a moment, her hand trembled too badly to continue. Then the labubu blinked. The match fell. Fire rushed up at once. The golden fur blackened. The cream cloth shrank. Its blue eyes cracked in the heat. And then came a shriek. Not in the air, but inside Mel's skull. Something dark seemed to press against the burning surface from within, as though trying to force itself out. Mel threw more fuel onto it until nothing remained but ash. She scraped every fragment into a glass jar, sealed it, and carried it to the Thames. Beneath the bridge, with the river black and restless below, she whispered, "I did not invite you." For the first time in days, the pressure seemed to lift. And because relief makes fools of exhausted people, she called Lily. At first, the call was gentle. They talked about home, their mother, neighbors, old, ordinary things. Mel nearly cried just hearing her sister's voice. Then Lily asked what was wrong, and Mel, exhausted, grieving, and desperate to be understood, told her enough of the truth to matter. Lily gave a nervous little laugh and said she wished she could see the doll. Mel froze. Then she remembered the photograph she had taken the night she brought the labubu home. She opened her gallery and saw that 3 images had automatically synced to the shared family album. Uploaded. Complete. Her blood turned cold. She told Lily to delete the photos immediately. After a pause, Lily said quietly, "I only just opened it." Then her voice changed. "Melly, why is there another face in the window behind you?" Mel said there had been no one there. "There is now," Lily whispered. Static crackled down the line, and beneath the static, faint but unmistakable, Mel heard it. A small laugh. Not in London, in Lily's room. The call cut off. At that exact moment, every light in Mel's flat went out. Darkness swallowed the rooms. A soft tapping began, like tiny hard fingers on glass. In the reflection of the darkened window, she saw the golden Labubu sitting on her bed, whole again, waiting. A voice came from behind her in the dark, dry, gentle, ancient. The path continues. Mel ran for the door, but the corridor outside was wrong, too long, too dim, stretching farther than it should. At the far end stood a small golden figure, watching. She slammed the door and backed into the flat. Her phone lit in her hand. A final message from Lily appeared, auto-transcribed from the broken call. "Who is standing behind me?" The next morning, Melanie Lin was found dead in her flat. No forced entry, no intruder, no weapon. Only a room disturbed, as if she had been retreating from something she dared not turn away from. Her face was frozen in absolute terror. And near her outstretched hand, perfectly placed on the floorboards, sat the golden Labubu. Clean, whole, smiling. The death was listed as unexplained, but the story did not end there. 2 days later, back in the village outside Shanghai, Lily stopped answering her phone. When relatives checked on her, they found her alive, but wrong. Pale, quiet, sitting upright on her bed and staring into the corner of the room as if waiting to be addressed. When asked what she was looking at, she said only, "She came through the picture." That same evening, a parcel appeared outside the house. No stamp, no sender. Inside was a doll, a Labubu. Golden fur, blue eyes, perfect little teeth, and a smile too patient to belong to anything harmless. Some say the family burned it. Some say it laughed in the fire. Others say they threw it into the river, the same river where Mel's father had once found a red-wrapped bundle years earlier. But the oldest people in the village say the doll was never the beginning, only the shape. The real thing is older. It moves through sorrow, through memory, through blood, through images, through the simple act of being recognized. So if one day you find a Labubu unlike the others, too beautiful, too still, too watchful, do not take it home. Do not photograph it. And if your dog begins growling at something you think is harmless, listen. Because sometimes animals see what love, loneliness, and grief persuade us to ignore. And if you still want to say none of this was real, if you think Mel was merely exhausted, frightened, broken by sorrow, then answer this. If the doll burned, if the ashes sank into running water, if Mel died alone in a locked flat, then how did the final photograph continue uploading after she was already dead? And more importantly, who was standing behind Lily?